Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the Darren Newman Dialogues. It's another great day. Happy to spend it with you and glad you're with us today. It's a day full of new possibilities, new opportunities, and hope everyone listening and watching today is doing well. Dr. Newman, welcome back to the broadcast, to the show. What's on your mind today?
Hey, thank you, my friend. Good to always see you and good to always be here. I've got a lot of things. I always say I've got a lot of
Yes,
things on my mind.
I'm sure.
It's always it's always making me think. Um, I was reminded back, and I'm not sure what brought this to my mind. But I was teaching one time with this individual who taught public speaking and interpersonal communication. And I don't know what we were talking about, but he said pathos, logos, and ethos. And I said, what was that? And he said, pathos, logos, and ethos. And I looked at him and I thought, what does that mean? He said, it's Aristotle. He said, it's the three things that you need whenever you're trying to move somebody, move their opinion. You need those three coming in as you express your idea to them. And he said, that's what I've been teaching on. Now, of course, my love of ancient philosophy, when he said it's Aristotle stuff, I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. But I have never read it in Aristotle, I must say. Nonetheless, if Aristotle did not say it, it's great. But if Aristotle did say it, I'll give him credit. No matter who said it, it's wonderful. And I wanted to talk about that today. So let me tell you what I'm going to be, or what that means. So pathos, of course, means passion. Logos means, of course, thought, and ethos means ethics. It means habits, lifestyles. When I was in seminary one time, we were asked the senior year that we were there. They had a like a regathering of students that had entered with us, and this was sort of a closeout on the seminary experience that we would meet back together. And so we started with one another. They would all have us in like this group, and then we would that was our freshman year, and then the first year, not the freshman year, but the first year of your seminary, and so the final year of your seminary, they would draw this group back together again. So I was in there with several people, and what we were to do in this one at this one time, this gathering together, it's the last time we were ever together, is that all of us, each individual person there, and there was about 12, maybe more or less in the group, we were all to give messages like we would speak, like we would in the church. Well, I was a pastor during that time. I was pastoring a church, or I was the minister of a church. You know how I feel about the word pastoring. It just, it gets so misused. So I was taking care of a church. I was in the ministry, while I was in seminary. And I thought when they talked about just giving like a 10-minute, 15-minute little sermonette here, I thought, I got this. This is easily done. It'd be like a rock star performing like one or two songs, like, just step up there and do this, But when they've been doing concerts all along, I think I've got this, I've got this. I just kept on saying to myself, I'll just pull up one here that I've done before for the church. And I was in that unique position while I was a minister of a church. A lot of the seminarians weren't yet. They would wait till after they were out of seminary to do that. So I was doing it as a student minister, as they called us. Anyway, I stepped up and I was ready for it. And I got up there and I spoke, and I gave a pretty good, what I thought was a pretty good performance, or not a performance. I was actually speaking a message, but what are you going to say to a group of seminarians? I mean, it's not like you're going to inform them of any big theological truths that they haven't already encountered from their classes or something, but I did get through it. And anyway, we were to meet with the professor who was heading it up sometime later on that week, or sometime, I guess that's the way the setup was. Anyway, I met with the person, and so I walked into the office, and he said, I really enjoyed that message. He said, I've got, I remember really, yeah, you can do that. You can speak. And then he said, but I cannot remember. He said, and I tried. He said, I cannot remember anything that you said. He said, I can't. He said, I know that you were saying something, but I have no idea what you were talking about. I can't remember it. And then I really didn't understand that. He said, you've got to make it make sense to the people, right? You got to talk about something, like, when you sing a song, it's got to make sense. When you do a work of art, it's got to make sense somehow. It's got to, you got to do something. You got to help them or enable them to have an experience of something that lives long in their thoughts. And what he was saying to me is, you've just done this thing and I have no idea. It's like this show, I guess. And I was reminded back to that story. And then a few years later, while I'm teaching, of course, several years later, that was brought to my mind, that Pathos, Logos, and Ethos. So I began dwelling upon that. And I started thinking how much that we need that in life, this idea of pathos, logos, and ethos. And you can talk about it around it, and you can take it in several ways. But I've been taking this in a way of leadership, like of making an impact in the world, of making somehow making a difference in the world. I know we live lives, we have a lot of things that we're doing, lots and lots of things that we do, each and every day of our lives. All of the list of things, and sometimes it gets very frustrating. But yet we're always seeking, I think as human beings, we're always seeking to make a mark in the world, leave a mark, make a difference, change the world in some way. Not only so-called leaders, but just everyday people. We're born human beings. We have all this beautiful capacity to look upon ourselves, to look upon the world, to think upon the world, what we're doing, what we're saying, what we're communicating with each other. And I think, how often do we even communicate with each other, just trying to make a difference in people's lives, and we really are not very memorable, like me in seminary. We don't make a difference, do we? We don't really make any sort of impact. And I wonder about that maybe we could do a far better work if we would pay attention to what we're doing. Maybe just swing it around so that our attention wasn't so much in just getting it done, that we're actually wanting to make a difference by it, if that makes any sense. Just like me in seminary, I just wanted to get through the thing, and I thought I got it. I didn't think about that I would actually make an impact. I was just trying to fulfill something that was on some silly syllabus, some testing ground, like, see if I can actually speak in front of people.
Mm-hmm.
How was it helpful? But I'm thinking, when he said that to me, which has been years and years ago, there's been as the old saying goes, there's been a lot of water under the bridge since then, but I can still remember him saying it, and it made a difference. And I've always remembered it every time I've spoken about or taught anything, because teaching in a lot of ways, the way we do it is by speaking. I've got something to say and I want you to remember it, so you've got to make it impactful. So what he was pointing to is, if we count this as Aristotle's the great trinity of leadership or public speaking or making an impact, whatever, what was missing, it had pathos, right? It had some passion, and it kind of had a little bit of ethos, which I'll explain, but it had no logos. There was no mindfulness to it. There was no like, this is memorable. So let me go back into that before we escape out of it, because it's very fascinating when you stop to think about how this all works. And I love things like this. I love like beauty, goodness, truth, justice, or courage, like we've been talking about. I love, a couple weeks ago we were talking about that, and it's link up to the four forces of life. I like things like that. It just helps me to capture them. But in this pathos, logos, and ethos, there's something very unique and sort of somewhat similar to what has been said before in other ways. But if you think of pathos is simply means to suffer with something. And I love that, to suffer with it, to feel it, right? So when you feel it, you suffer with it. Now, suffering doesn't necessarily mean that you're in pain with it, like we suffer from it, but suffering is this beautiful, it has a beautiful sense to it. It's like a wounding. It's like something that gets to you. Like when you hear a great piece of music or see a great work of art, something that moves you, the face of a loved one, when someone's being kind, it reaches you and you feel it. It's like it'll bring a tear to your eye. Watch certain movies and you'll find everybody's dabbing their eyes. That's the pathos in you. That's when you know that you're alive, that you feel that. And of course, to not feel anything is apathos, or apathy, which is no suffering at all. It's like, I don't care. I have no care in this. I have nothing. I don't suffer from this. I don't care whether it goes or it exists, or it dies, it lives. Doesn't matter to me. That's apathy. So in some ways we suffer. I love that word suffering in that good sense with it. It's painful. It's like when you see, when you have something happen to you, which is so good, you just can't stand it. It's just like, oh man, that is so good, and that's part of life. It's like, yeah, it's so interesting and so compelling, and I love it. And then you have, of course, logos, which that goes down to the words. It actually means word or reason. I'm wondering, I've never proven this out, but I'm sure that it is logic and logos and any of the studies that we do, like be it biology, ecology, anthropology, theology. It's the reason. It's like thinking about that subject, whatever that subject is, whether it's theos, which is the divine, anthropos, which is humanity, bios, which is life, biology, and it goes on down, geology, geos, So you've got all this thinking, and it makes sense. I mean, it's the whole idea of science, isn't it? It's like if the arts are pathos, then science is the logos. It's that rational part of us. It's got to make sense, and it's got to be memorable. It's got to awaken the mind to that. Makes sense. That's beautiful. It's beautiful in its own. It's truth, right? It's this wonderful awakening. So what he was saying to me is, sounded good. I just can't. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. I mean, it's not memorable. In other words, it's like it makes it's. I mean, it's not like nonsense. It's just, yeah, okay. whatever. It's just like, yeah, it's there, Then you have this last one, ethos, which is a very powerful one. And then I'm going to show how this works in life just a second, or how it works in the individual life. I'm going someplace with this. I want to assure all of our listeners, so just hang on. I know it sounds like we're kind of wandering around, but just let us wander just a little bit. Just think with us. And I think there's something very rich. As I always say to my students, I'm going to give you some gold here. So that gold is there. Just hang on with it. We'll bring this on around as the way it's in my thoughts. So back to ethos. Ethos incorporates habits, lifestyle, life, that it can be practically applied, that it's usable. Not only is it memorable, it makes a difference, right? Now we're heading into something. So the pathos, logos, and ethos not only has to do with what the speaker is giving, it's what the speaker is showing. And this is really interesting. This is where it becomes life transformational for the individual, because it looks to making life complete as a whole, that you're working with all of your burners, so to speak. In other words, I am pursuing a passion, something that moves me, something that I suffer with, that I long to know. It's a calling, right? It's my drive. Like we were sharing yesterday, and you brought it up very, very succinctly. If you remember that, my friend, and you said something like, you have to have an aptitude, right? You've got to have something there that drives you with that. If it's just something that you would like to do, yeah, but something that you are almost destined to do, called to do, suffer with it means you're in it for the long haul. So when it gets tough, you get tough, right? Isn't that just so great for a person's individual life, if they can ever discover that? And then they do have that. It's just that they need to uncover it or discover it in their lives. And what Aristotle is pointing out, if you have a person up there speaking, if they don't feel it themselves, it's like smile. You know how it's like up there just talking, and it doesn't make a difference in their own life. Like I was going to say, it's like smiling, but you're really not smiling. You're like smiling with a camera, but you can tell it's not in the twinkle of your eye. Yeah. Yeah. So you might be up there like raging about it, but you don't really have it. You don't suffer with it. You don't get tough with it when it gets tough, because it's not going to be easy. That thing that you're feeling, but what is life? It is something that moves us like that. I mean, every great musician, every great artist, every great impactful person, whoever they are, whatever they do, they suffer with what they're called to do. That could be in education, that could be in studying something, that could be in the arts, that could be in the sciences, that could be in anything that's, but it's making a difference. That's the key. It's a giving from yourself, but you have to feel that. Plus, it has to make sense to you, right? You've got to, I mean, your life has to exhibit that logos. And what would it be if you get up there and you're saying this, but you don't even live out the lifestyle, the ethos of it, right? It won't work. I mean, we see that all of the time, and that's called, that's called hypocrisy, right? When you say one thing and you're all on fire with it, and it all makes sense to you, we think, and when it comes down to the ethos, you don't live it out. pure hypocrisy, shines like the noonday sun, right? And we nail that down. So what it's almost like a call to excellence, isn't it? It's like this something that I've got this all working in my life. I'm working this out. Everything that I do. I mean, why do something that doesn't move you? And I know we have to do things to keep up, life, that's not going to make us jump up and down, but what is life if you're not pursuing something that really awakens you and makes it make sense for you, and that you can truly live out with a panache and with a greatness that you own that. And that's almost so needed today in this world of screens and posturing and awful things being done. So that links up in my mind, if you hear it, with what we've always stood for on the channel, on the website. Wonder, wisdom, and the wild. It's right there. So wonder, of course, is the passion. It's the wonder of things. It's that drive. I mean, what is life if you don't wonder about it? We wonder at things. We find that wondering beauty. The logos, of course, is where we try to give wisdom. And then the ethos, of course, is the wild, where it really takes place, in the protection of nature and in seeing that. So I'm back to something, though, that's really practical with this. And I keep spinning this and spinning this and spinning this, but I've got to get this off my heart in this day and time. I heard something being said that living is giving. Living is giving. So you're giving that away. But there's something in that is almost, it creeps up, that I've got to mention. The world today is dealing with tyranny and with people that are doing awful things. I mean, we can read that in the news. We're suffering from it. Millions are suffering from it. And what that is when you take a person, and this is so needed today that we need to fight against this. So the idea is, even if you look at it throughout human history, the dictators, the tyrants, those who wish to do great evil upon the world, will take all three away from us. They'll rob us of wonder and passion and turn it into fear. They will take the knowledge, the logos, and they will try to snatch it out and control that and rob us of questioning, which going on today, in some parts of the world, and I don't need to mention anything, you can be put in prison for just simply questioning something, simply looking at it differently than what the tyrannical forces want you to do. And then the ethos of it is that it sucks away all kindness and replaces this, almost like this apathy or this movement without empathy, and creates havoc. That kindness needs to be there, but it's overshadowed and it tries to be overcome. The tyrannical forces, those who are dictators, whatever, try to take away and remove any sense of kindness, any sense of empathy. And so in some ways, this burns in my heart that I'm thinking it's time for the good to shine, maybe. It's almost time for, as we were talking earlier, it's time for people maybe to make a difference in the ways that we can. And I'm not putting a bunch of laborious points upon us, because there are things we cannot we cannot solve. I mean, it's too large, it's too big. But what we can do is we can do what we can, right? So it's where the light comes in so subtly, so beautifully, that it enriches my soul. So it's not like taking care of the whole problem, but you have that individual, or you have that creature that needs your help, and there you are. You're going to make a difference there, aren't you? You're going to make, you're going to make it in that light, that you can reach somebody, that you can do something. And if we get hold of that strength within us, then the tyranny, though it might want to, will finally find no place to be, because we're all standing in that ethos, that pathos, that logos, that this will not fly, my friend. This isn't going to be, right? That's the reason I think that great leaders, great artists, and great people that make a difference finally see something. I might not be able to do that, but I can do this. And now it's like so beautiful in that sense, where you find these heroes come about. And don't we need the hero? Don't we need that person that finally stands up and says, I don't pay attention to all of that.
Yes.
But I pay attention to this, and this is what I must do. So you see, it's like if we can get that straight some way. I mean, I'm hearing this, of course, in my training in philosophy, theology. Everybody that I've ever read, everybody that's ever made a difference, had that one light. I remember Socrates answering his accusers. A student reminded me of this. He was asking me about the accusers themselves. In Plato's Apology, of course, it's Anytus and Meletus, and they bring Socrates to trial, right? So Socrates is standing in front of all these people, being brought up on these trumped up charges that he was introducing gods not recognized by the city-state of Athens for the day, and also he was corrupting the youth, right? And it was it's these trumped up charges, these weird charges that they thought, well, they finally got him on them. But he stood before them and he said, I love you with all of my heart, but I will serve God rather than you. So because they were so given, right, to this, to maybe courting this way of life, which loved power, which loved wealth. I mean, the love of it, and loved the influence. They were like, it's like they didn't care what that meant to a person's soul, but Socrates representing that soul, right? Who represented the individual who stood against that. And he said, I will serve God rather than you. And even if I have to go to the death on this, I will die 100 deaths. It's that's the impact, isn't it? And that is so living in my heart, as I think in this day and time, that we can make a difference, and we can answer. We can give some help whenever you feel helpless and you just don't know what to do. Begin with wherever you are, and it will make a difference. It will make an impact, but you'll always know what is driving that tyrant and that person that is creating so much havoc. But here's an encouraging word. And this encourages me in this odd way that I want to just give for people's thinking. I told my students this week, I said, if you would meet anybody in this world, no matter how important you think they are, and you walk up to them and you touch their arm, right? And I want you to touch your arm right now, right? Touch your arm, feel that, right? And if you touch that, you will feel, if you walked up to that individual and you did that, they'll feel just like you, right? They're human, right? And that emboldens a lot of people, I think, and it emboldens my thoughts as well. It's like there was a philosopher who said one time, I don't need to be afraid of that human because that human is just like me. He or she has everything in them that I have. They don't have anything more. They might be a bit taller, they might be a bit stronger, but essentially on the inside, we're still this. It's that we've got everything. We're humans.
Yeah.
So in some ways that emboldens. Now, let me just say this. I know that whatever we can humbly offer here will not bring an answer to the world's problems. And in no way am I saying that. But I am saying that if we do have a sense of the importance that we are, and that we can make that difference to wherever we are when we see that going on, that we can make that difference to that one individual or maybe a few individuals, that if enough of us do that, then finally we will achieve something that is great and something that is good, and we will answer the evils that confront us sometimes through this ethos, pathos, and logos again, from that humble writing that Aristotle offers to us, and we'll hear once again, and this is from actually the New Testament. In the Gospel of John, it's in the New Testament. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And it goes all the way through this great theological persuasion about the Word and being located with God and all of this. And that Word became the light of men and women. That spark, see, that's what ignites a movement. That's what makes a difference. Maybe that helps. That's what I'm thinking today, my friend.
Let me share with you what was on my mind at the beginning of this broadcast today, because I've been thinking about a great day today. This morning, I was thinking, this is a great day. And I wanted to bring that as I opened the broadcast today. I thought, well, as I opened the show, I thought, I want to talk about great day. And you probably heard me mention just, hope you're having a great day. And it's a great day.
Yes,
opportunities. I was looking up great day quotes, even to try to find some inspiration. I saw one that said, if it's not a great day, make it a great day. Great days don't just come, make it a great day. And I thought, well, that's kind of corny. I don't know if I want to, go that direction. Yeah. But after hearing you speak today, now I'm hearing something different. And maybe this is a providential moment. Maybe it's a moment that should be shared with the audience today. But if your life is not in the place like you talked about, full of passion and finding your calling and the direction, and you don't have the right position in your life, you can change that. You can make some changes in your life and start to find that passion, find the calling, find the skill, the aptitude that fits you, that that you are in the right place doing the right thing. I saw a contrast in my mind while you were speaking of Matthew 23 in the New Testament, where Jesus speaks to the Pharisees and he says, scribes and Pharisees, woe to you, because You are like whitewashed tombs. You look beautiful on the outside, but
mhm,
on the inside, you're full of dead men's bones,
mhm,
and impure. And so they were about their own agenda, and they were
mhm,
not making a difference in the world that they could have made. They were great
mhm,
men of skill and knowledge, but they chose to be selfish and do things for their own gain. Therefore, they were not impactful to the world. They didn't
mhm,
make change. They just
mhm,
simply furthered their own agendas. And then contrast that with Hebrews that tells us we have a high priest who's been touched with the feelings of our infirmities, who knows how we feel and has been tempted like we have in Christ. I think that's the difference.
That's
We need
yeah.
to understand and feel the empathy of the people that we're called to serve and called to help in this world, and see the pain and the struggle and feel that pain. And it's then we can step on stage and maybe with our skills and calling make a real difference. That was what
Yeah,
came
I
to me.
appreciate that. Yeah, that's great insights for that. It's there is a responsibility to it. There
Mhm.
has to be. I mean, there we look to people, I think, outside of our purview, and we pin on them. These are these are the ways that you could fix this. Um, but maybe responsibility lies with us, and maybe that's where we need to just be focusing anyway.
Mhm.
What can I do to change my life? But also, what can I give? What? How can I? How can I live to give? How can I give to make, I don't know, the problems much easier to face? It won't eradicate all of the problems, because
No.
it's just probably, according to the history of the world, I would say it's going to probably go on like this, that we're usually, not usually, but there's, I hate to use the word usually, that sounds such a odd word to use, but we're always going to have those problems. There's always going to be that tendency to have to stay on guard. um and when all of life looks hopeless, look at what's in your hand. I talk with a great friend of mine who's a counselor, and they said to me, uh, "You have to have hope. I mean, you have to have a sense there is something that you can do." Because she was offered the thought, what happens, what do we say when we know that all is hopeless?
Mhm.
And and she actually said, if you think all is hopeless, you're in the wrong profession. You need to get out of it. It's almost like, if you think all is hopeless, that you cannot make a difference, or there's nothing we can do, then we are lost from the get-go. There
Yeah.
is something we can do. There's something there.
Mhm.
Again, it's not an easy answer. It's not
No.
something that just comes out of nowhere. It takes work, like I was mentioning earlier. To suffer with it, you get tough when it gets tough. You don't lay down. You get thinking when all around you is, like that old song says, clowns to the left, me joker to the right. I mean, you got to think through this, man. When you've got to get on this.
Yeah.
You've got to make a difference. You've got to live this out. You've got to be a part of that life. Because if you don't, you're lost before you begin.
Yes.
It's there's no aptitude there, as you said.
No.
There's nothing there, but yet there is something there, and it does take great responsibility. I mean, every one of the world's faiths and religions and spiritualities, every one of the philosophers, the great teachers, the great leaders, so-called truly leaders, not just office holders, but leaders, people that make a difference. Every great musician, every great artist, every great thinker, whoever you are, whatever you are doing, that's your responsibility. You're taking that on, and that is how you're making the difference, because it's your responsibility, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, I don't mean to climb aboard on that and make everybody feel bad, but let's get this right. A friend of mine one time said, he asked me one time, why do people, uh, why do you have to keep going back and forth to the church? He said, and I said, well, they think that they're always messing up. And he said, how long does it take for you to get this right? He wasn't a member of the church, he was just questioning,
Yeah.
how long, how much training do you need here? How much, when are you finally going to get up there and start doing it? Like you could say to the musician, how many more lessons does it take before you get up there and start your own performance?
Yeah.
How many times are you going to do this?
Right.
You've got to go. You've got to make that difference. And maybe that's the way that we have of dismantling the power of those who might, through bad choices, through their own selfish ways or whatever they want to do, to create havoc and evil in the world, for those who are innocent and can't help themselves. Maybe that brings them down a few notches by us answering and say, I tell you what I can do. I'm a human being just like you, and I will answer this. I'm going to work against this. I'm going to help the one that you're trying to put into fear. Mm-hmm. I'm going to rescue the one that you're putting into bondage. I'm going to educate the one that you want to hold in ignorance. Yeah. I'm going to help the one that you want to give pain to. I'm going to offer healing and hope. Mm-hmm. So that's the way I argue it. So last time I checked, that's still a human being there.
Yes.
And that's, that's how what do we always encourage, in standing up to the bullies, come on. Yeah. Just get on in there. I remember Andy Griffith episode. I've always loved Andy Griffith, but I'll share this. For those of you who might be listening, don't know what Andy Griffith is. It's an American sitcom of the 60s. It's pure greatness in some ways. But
great television philosopher.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I've shared this in ethics class sometime with I'll cover it some ways. I was trying to think when I bring it in. I offered it this one class, and I had a full house. Man, they were there to watch this episode of Andy Griffith. They were all about it. So it's the one where Opie faces the bully, and he doesn't know what to do because he's stealing his money, and he doesn't have any money for his milk or whatever he has, and they go through this big thing of they finally find out that it's being taken, and he goes on that day. He has a discussion, Opie, with Andy Griffith, his father, and they're fishing, and Andy tells this story, that just to tell a story to help him, that about this fishing hole and how they tried to stop him, and he found out that when he stood up to them, that all of it was mainly bluster. It's just a mind game of blustering, right? And he said it was okay. It hurts, but he stood up to them. He stood up to them, and little Opie said, "So what happened?" He said, "Well, I'm fishing here today, aren't I?" And so then you see it cuts to when Opie takes the punch, and he squints up his little face and he says, "Pa, I hope you're right." And then that you just hear this piano music go boom like that, and then it goes on to the next scene. He took the punch, but he
Yeah.
got his money back, right?
Yeah.
And it gets a, you'd have to watch the episode. I'm not doing it well at all, but at the same token, stand up there, my friends, stand up, make a difference, and let yourself be emboldened. You are called to do something great. You have pathos, you have logos, and you have an ethos, and you have a calling. Your calling is to give and make a difference in this life. Make it a beautiful day.
Yes.
That's your responsibility. So
Yes.
there it is.
That's it. And I guess at the beginning of the show, I didn't want to quote that, make it a great day, in my mind, thinking that it is, for many people, not maybe a great day. They're in struggle and they're having difficulties in their life, but we can stand up, we can take position. The beauty that we have in our lives, the freedom that we have in our lives, the goodness that we have in our lives, we should never take for granted. Some days we have to fight for that. Some days we have to struggle for it, but that still makes it a great day. Even though it was a great day is not necessarily a day without pain or a day without struggle or a day without fighting. It's simply a day that you were in your purpose, you were in your role, and you were making a difference and an impact and found your way. So that's what we hope everybody can come to today, find a conclusion today that gives you hope for a future, that helps position you in life, that gives you direction again, so that you can embrace the great things of life and what is available to us. And so grateful for another great time of dialoguing and having great conversation. Any final words today, Dr. Newman, as we wrap up?
I just want to encourage people that life is, there's an old saying, life is what you make it. I know that's an old, like a truism there, but take heart that there have been others in this life that have made a difference, and they were just like you. They were just like you. And then allow that truth to embolden you, that you too can make that lasting difference through in how you live, through in how you give, and through that way of life that you have of living. And when you can't give it, then receive that blessing from somebody else who can help you along life's way to achieve that beautiful day that you're searching for and make that difference. So it's all about giving, receiving, it's all about living, but we're on this beautiful way of the wonder, the wisdom, and the wild, man. It's always there. And I appreciate the time. Thank you.
If you've enjoyed this, if you find value in our time together and you enjoy being a part of the podcast, we'd love to hear from you. Love for you to make comment, ask questions, give your feedback in any way you would like. Also, share it with those who you think might find it valuable as well. Maybe there are some out there who could use the words spoken today and maybe some encouragement. So hopefully you'll share that as well and be a part of the podcast. If you're watching by YouTube, don't forget to like us and to hit that bell icon so you can be notified when we do upload a brand new episode. A little sporadic at the moment, but we're working on getting a regular routine of getting those up and posted on a regular basis. Looking forward in the future to some guests to be with us and to have some roundtable discussions about lots of good things. We'd love to know what's on your heart and mind, and maybe some questions you might like us to address or think about. We welcome that as well. So good to have you with us again today. Hope you'll be with us again next time as we come together for the Darren Newman Dialogues.